Art visits Saul and finds him reading prayers from a book after taking his heart medication. Saul examines the papers. Art changes his mind and returns. Saul hears a noise from the hallway and investigates. He hears a voice and sees the door open and close on its own. He notices a presence inside the door. The lights begin to flicker and the entity enters the room. Saul tries to escape but finds that the door won't open. He grabs a light and shines it towards the entity, revealing a demon. The shock of the sight triggers a heart attack, causing Saul to pass away. As Saul dies, the writing on the note becomes increasingly unreadable. The following morning, Art wakes up and searches for his father downstairs. To his horror, he discovers his father's lifeless body on the bed. Someone informs Art that his father died of a heart attack. Hamish hands him a piece of paper and tells him that he was the cause of Saul's broken heart. Art discovers that Saul had signed a contract before his death. As she closes the refrigerator door, Claire sees a little girl and gets frightened. The girl calmly walks away. Claire follows her and finds her hiding behind a piece of cloth, but she mysteriously disappears. She goes to check behind the cloth, but nothing is there. She turns around and sees everyone in the room has frozen except for the girl. Claire asks her what she wants. Suddenly the cloth falls on Claire's head, and when she is able to see the girl cries out for help. Claire screams in fear and everyone looks at her. Claire then locates Art and informs him that something strange is occurring. However, it appears that Art is also experiencing something unusual. He tells Claire that he needs to sleep. Both Claire and Art are asleep. Art is awakened by a noise and gets up. Art is carving a circular symbol on the floor in the downstairs area. He opens his eyes and realizes he has been sleepwalking. Art approaches Claire's bedside and expresses his fear that he is going crazy. Claire comforts him and suggests that they return home. Art opens a drawer and wants to turn over Yasila's body to the authorities for proper burial. However, the authorities decline to accept the body due to unclear instructions. They explain that in cases of suicide, a police reporter is required. They request to speak with Hamish. But Art informs them that Hamish no longer works there. The official tells Art that unless he can transfer the custody to the next of kin, he will need a police clearance. Art decides to search for Yasila's next of kin. He retrieves Yasila's keys and drives to his home. Inside the house, he sees numerous symbols drawn on the walls, but no one is present. As he searches for a contact, Art finds a note with the message, "Forgive me." Art then discovers a cassette labeled "Summoning Attempt." He plays the cassette and hears Yasila confessing that he made a grave error. Art also finds the same symbol that he saw himself carving in his dream, carved into the floor. Meanwhile, as Claire packs their belongings to leave, she notices movement behind a piece of cloth. As she approaches it, there is a knock at the door. When she opens it, she encounters a woman who introduces herself as Ida Fishbein, Yasila's wife. Claire informs her that they are no longer in business, but she insists on seeing her husband's body. Art finds something wrapped in cloth underneath the wood panels. He unwraps it and finds out it is a tape recording labeled "The Miracle of Sarah Schindel." Art plays the tape which shows Yasila performing a ritual to bring back his wife. Sarah is also in the video. Yasila states that this is the interface between heaven and earth. He wants to bring his wife back from heaven. Yasila instructs Sarah to go inside the circle. Sarah walks inside, and after a few moments, she is levitating. Sarah giggles, stating that something tickles her body. Suddenly, Yasila notices that something is wrong. He tells Sarah to get out of the circle, but he is pushed away. Sarah screams and falls to her death. A demonic entity approaches Yasila. Art is shocked to see this. Art receives a call from Claire. She informs him that a woman claiming to be Yasila's wife wants to see his body. Before Art can inform Claire that Yasila's wife had died months ago, the signal becomes poor, and the call gets disconnected. Claire becomes frightened. When she turns around and sees the woman standing right behind her, the woman once again insists on seeing her husband. Claire agrees, and they go downstairs. Inside the morgue, Claire is surprised to see that the woman knows in which drawer Yasila's body is in, but she tells her it is written on the note. She asks Claire to open the drawer as her hands are weak. After some hesitation, Claire opens the drawer. She is shocked to see that this is the same man who attacked her in her dream. Suddenly, Claire experiences intense pain in her stomach and suspects the woman. She asks her what she did to her, and the woman informs her that she has been infected in her dream. The pain causes her to fall on the ground. The woman tells her that her child will soon die unless she follows her instructions. She points to the pendant that is hidden under the drain cover. Claire finds the pendant. The woman instructs her to burn it, and Claire complies. As she burns the pendant, Yasila's body also burns. Soon after the demon appears out of the flames, Claire screams in fear and runs away. She hurries to the elevator, but it doesn't work. The lights in the quarter start turning off one by one. She closes the elevator door and finally goes up to the first floor. She then walks through the hallway to exit through the main door, but it is locked. She tries to call Art, but an unknown force pulls the phone away from her and puts it in the middle of the circular symbol in the hallway. Art takes the call and asks her to get closer to the phone so he can hear her. As she is slowly approaching the phone, suddenly the elevator bell rings, indicating the demon is arriving. She hurries to hide under the dining table. As she watches from under the table, the woman cackles and walks away. But soon after, the woman appears again and finds Claire under the table. Art arrives and rushes to find Claire, but he sees Sarah instead and asks her where his wife is. She points to Claire, who is lying unconscious on a daybed. He runs to her to check on her. Claire wakes up. He carries her to get out of the building while Sarah is watching him, but as soon as he goes through the hallway door, Claire disappears from his arms. He goes back and finds Claire lying unconscious in the same location. Sarah tells him, "A life for a life." Claire wakes up again. Art carries her again, and she disappears again. This time, Sarah proposes to make a deal. She points to the window. Art goes toward the window and looks outside. He sees the children playing and realizes she wants him to get her a child. Art refuses. Suddenly, Art starts hearing loud whispers and gets a headache. After a while, the sound stops and he finds Sarah gone. Art calls Hamish and asks for his help. Hamish arrives and tells him to show the tape to him. After seeing the tape, Hamish asks if the demon is still in the house. Art replies he thinks so, and it has Claire as a hostage. Hamish tells him he knows someone who might be able to help. He calls Hayim. Hayim arrives and inspects the symbol. He tells them it is a sigil, a sacrificial altar for those who enter it. Hayim asks Art if his wife went into the sigil. Art replies he does not know. They go to see Yasila's body. Once he sees the burnt body of Yasila, he tells them the demon has been freed. He describes the demon as the bringer of miscarriages and the taker of children. He finds part of the broken pendant and asks Art where the rest of it is. Hayim explains that the demon is named Ebizu, and it has been causing pain and misery to humanity since the beginning of time. God intervened and called upon Abraham, who permanently bound the demon through the sacrifice of his son. However, Yasila has now freed it. Hayim then decides to finish what Yasila started. He reassembles the broken pendant. He then tells Art to trap the demon inside his body, just like Yasila did. Art agrees to do it to save his wife and the baby, while Hayim is giving instructions to Art. Suddenly, the door opens. Hayim tells Art to stay in the circle. Before he is killed by the demon, Art and Hamish hurry to finish the circle of ashes. Suddenly, Hamish disappears. Art sees a hallucination of his father. Saul tells him to do what the demon wants. Hamish comes back and reminds him that it is just a hallucination of his father. Hamish gives him a book and hangs the pendant around his neck. Arthur finishes the circle. The demon appears and attacks Hamish. It then drags him away. Art opens the book and starts praying in Hebrew. While Art is praying, Claire arrives, but the door gets closed, and Art can only hear Claire's screams. He walks out of the circle while wielding the knife. As soon as he is out of the circle, he hears an intense sound. Despite this, he continues to pray, and the sound goes away. He opens the door and finds Claire pinned to a window. He rushes to bring her back down. The window breaks, and she is on the verge of falling off the other side of the wall. Art steps back and starts praying. Suddenly, the writings become unclear. He continues to pray, and a black smoke enters his body. This is where he is supposed to stab himself, but the knife has fallen off his hand. He reaches to grab the knife and stab himself, but a force pulls it away from him. He crawls toward the knife, but it is too far away. Hamish arrives with a knife in hand. He puts the knife in Art's hands, but Art is unable to stab himself, so Hamish does it. Art falls on the ground, taking his last breaths. Hamish tells him he should have stayed in the circle. They both look at the pendant that has fallen on the floor. Hamish scoffs at Art and walks away. Art then sees the dead body of the real Hamish and realizes the one that stabbed him was not real. The scene then cuts back to where Claire was hiding under the dining table. She cautiously gets out of her hiding place and walks towards the hallway, where she sees Art. She walks towards him, but suddenly he stops her. and his demeanor changes. She realizes she is in the middle of the circle. She looks up to see the demon fiercely roaring before launching an attack on her.